chapter, I'm going to do the side seams. There are a few things you might want to bear in mind when you're working with a bias cut top. So let's get started.
Let's close those side seams. You could do French seams, of course, for a very fine top. Then you would put the left sides together first, cut them back, roll it to the other side, and then put the right sides together and sew them together. And how to do a French seam you can find in my Sewing 101 course. Here we're just going to do the usual method. We're going to put the right sides together and sew them together. So let's pop on over to our sewing machine. When you're working with bias, you want to stretch the seam a little bit, just as you would with sewing jersey. That means that your seam allowance is going to be wider if you now line it up with a 1 centimeter. What you want to do is line it up foot width, so that when you're finished, you have a 1 centimeter seam allowance and it doesn't end up being too wide. You don't need any special stitch for this. 2.5, the usual stitch for most sewing machines, is going to be perfect for this. Wonderful. Next we're going to overlock the seam and then we're going to iron it. Because you've stretched it so much, you first need to iron your seam flat again. So make sure that you ease in everything that you've stretched so that it lies entirely flat. And only at this point will we iron the seam towards the back. You can open out the seam with your fingers like that while you iron, and that also makes the seam come back up and not have an unsightly wavery effect in it. Make sure that you use your tailor's clapper once you've ironed it with lots and lots of steam. Look at this beautiful, clean, smooth seam. Isn't that lovely?
I hope I could give you here a few tips for this. So the next chapter now is more binding. So let's get to it. See you there.